Hi there, welcome back to Horological. So, how did I find myself into watches and the horology hobby in general from such a young age? Well, as a kid, I was surrounded by mechanical clocks, particularly from one brand, and that brand was Westclox. You see, my mum was a clockmaker for Westclox from the 1960s right through to the early 1980s. While we remember, I'll do a quick wrist check before we get started. What I'm wearing today, and it's appropriate to the video, is an Armitron Griffy. It's a gold kind of PVD coated version with the red LEDs, and I'll include a quick close up here for you as well. The footage I am using was filmed inside the Strathleven factory during the 1960s, and it gives a great insight into the inner workings of a fully integrated clock and watch factory during this time. It really shows how hands-on the work was, and at the time these products were sold to over 110 countries, including Switzerland. Yes, we actually used to supply alarm clocks and mass-produced mechanical wristwatches to the Swiss. There's quite a degree of automation going on in the factory as well. For its time, it was a state-of-the-art manufacturing plant. It's hard to imagine that they produced 10,000 units per week in here, from absolute raw materials right through to a fully packaged retail product. What we're seeing here is one of the finishing rooms. We're not seeing the large presses or the coating processes for the pressed out case parts. There was also a full acrylics department making the crystals for the clocks. There was a loom department, dial department, hands getting stamped out. There was also a highly technical mainspring area where the mainsprings were made as well. There was nothing bought in, it was all made on site, fully integrated. I mean, it's there's not very many factories are doing that these days, that's for sure. This was a truly unique manufacturing plant based right here in the west of Scotland. That's a finished tray just going in the conveyor belt there, and that they would go along to the next stage in the process. It's amazing to have access to this archive footage of how the factory actually looked. That's massive bezels there on the right hand side in acrylic crystals, so that's crystals and bezels getting applied to it. It looks like wall clocks. They were all chromed on site as well, the bezels. And look, that's those wall clocks here on a rack, ready to go off to be packaged. There's some footage of finished alarm clock products. They made a huge range of different dial configurations, different clock watch configurations. You look at that, it's spectacular, isn't it? And there again, there's more. Some of the solid state clocks are in that shot down at the bottom, and some of the fancier wall clocks. Little carriage clock there, fantastic. This was in the office complex of Westclox where they had this stand set up for potential clients coming in. Look at that. Look at the radial sunburst effect in those dials. That's a clock with a plaque on it that could be removed and could be engraved as a commemorative item. They made lots of items like that. People could also customise with their own branding and logo on it. Oh, there's a 1970s classic. The old spiky clock. You can see there, I mean, there's some really fantastic designs going on, really cutting edge for the time stuff, and quite high end clocks and watches getting produced at times as well. A lot of it was mass produced, but there were slightly fancier items getting made in here as well. And that's one of those aforementioned kind of solid state clocks that plugged in. That was pre-quartz timing. That's the presses now. My mum quite often worked one of those presses. That was her favourite job. And she did come off that station. She worked in the acrylics department, loom department. She worked in the movements as well, but she liked working those presses more than anything else. The scale of this operation is amazing. So many people working away, such a huge employer in our local community during the 50s, 60s and 70s. And that's finished product there just on the rack. And that's them getting packaged. All done by hand. Amazing to see. And from here they would get shipped out to the 110 countries around the world that they sold to. 50 million clocks from when the plant opened until it closed in 1988. Truly a world-class operation. From this footage you kind of get an idea of the scale involved. Look at the size of that hall. Absolutely massive. And it was actually the Americans that introduced the manufacturing standards to watch and clock making that allowed it to be mass produced. So General Time and Westclox were market leaders at their time. A lot of this technology came from early days working with Ford. General Time made a lot of the dials for Fords. When you watch the Steve McQueen film Bullet, those clocks that you see in the car, the ref counter and speedometer, they were all General Time. General Time were heavily involved in Quartz timing development with many mergers and acquisitions throughout the 1950s, 60s and 70s. And even have links to my Wristcheck watch today, the Armitron Griffy, through shared modules manufactured by a company called Computed Time Corporation that benefited from earlier General Time Quartz research. These modules were used in early Armitron watches, and they found their way into the ubiquitous red LED Westclox digital alarm clocks of the 70s and 80s. I'll put a couple of examples of these on screen. There were also links historically with Waterbury clocks, who became Timex. Hamilton, Bulova and Ingersoll all share historical links with General Time and Westclox. Sadly, General Time was distracted during the quartz development phase of the late 1960s, where Seiko were the first to miniaturise the quartz technology to fit in a wristwatch, albeit prohibitively expensive at launch, while General Time and Westclox concentrated quartz development to military and other national interest uses, given the Japanese, who were effectively at the time banned from developing military equipment, they had the edge in consumer development at the time. The Quartz Crisis hit General Time and Westclox really hard, as they were slow to adopt and transition to the more consumer-led aspects of quartz watch and clock manufacture. That fully integrated factory design that was once a great advantage in the manufacture of mechanical clocks and wristwatches, it was now like a giant iron ball round their ankles. The more electronics-orientated, cleaner production and assembly environment infrastructure required was almost impossible to achieve a workable cost envelope in a factory designed to be a raw materials to fully finished product site. Kind of like trying to produce a modern electric vehicle in a Model T Ford factory. The factory, after several years of decline, finally closed in 1988. They just couldn't compete with cheaper quartz production from, at the time, Taiwan and Hong Kong, then later moving to China. So that's a brief history of why I'm into collecting watches and horology in general. My mum worked at this plant. There was many members of my extended family worked at this plant. My mum's sister Catherine was an office manager for years at Westclox in General Time. In 1974 it did become the actual global headquarters of General Time, and she managed the office for them. And while I was doing the research for this video, I did come across some internal General Time documents, and the revelations that I discovered in these documents absolutely blew me away. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, now's a good time to subscribe, because when I tell the story that I discovered here, it's absolutely out of this world, quite literally. Please subscribe for more content like this, share your own thoughts in the comments below, consider a like, and thank you for watching. And remember, watch collecting isn't always logical, but it is horological.